Hi, I'm Linda, and welcome to Eternal Love of Drama, a channel where two drama enthusiasts share our uninformed opinions about the Chinese dramas that we watch. We don't know much about the industry, the people, or I don't know, any other of the mysteries of how Chinese dramas appear before us, but we do like to share our very strong opinions about what we've watched. What's our episode about today?
Well, we like to start every episode with an arbitrary drama award. And this time we're going to talk about what happens to you after you fall off a cliff. In almost every single one of the dramas that we watch, someone inevitably falls off a cliff. And this is, again, as a reminder, we only watch costume Chinese dramas. We don't watch modern dramas. So I think this would be a little bit more difficult to pull off in a modern drama. But in almost every single wuxia drama, people fall off a cliff, either by themselves or with other people. Sometimes you lose your memory. Sometimes you find secret kung fu. Sometimes you meet interesting, weird characters. Sometimes you just, especially if you fall off the cliff with someone else, you end up finding love. So we wanted to give an award for the best adventure had after surviving a cliff fall. So tell us about some of the top contenders.
I have a couple of contenders for
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
Handsome Siblings.
Okay.
There is a cliff fall. It's sort of more of a waterfall, really, but at the bottom of it, he gets captured to be a sex slave in this underground temple run by this woman who is, I guess, a nymphomaniac, and there are other young male handsome sex slaves down there. So that's a contender for me for an adventure.
Yeah.
I think that we recently watched one called The Moon Brightens for You, and the two main leads jump off a cliff together, and they take a big adventure in fashion because everything they wear after falling off this cliff, I mean, obviously there's a mysterious stranger who has amazing medical skills that heals them. But they just wear tie-dye. Everything from there on out, tie-dye. And then my last contender is Heavenly Sabre. Dragon saber, heavenly sword, I don't know, which I think you will also talk about, where he falls off a cliff. There's multiple cliff falls on this one, but I'm thinking of the ape,
the monkey guy. Yeah,
the secret kung fu manual in the belly of the ape one.
Yeah, no, I think that's one of my top contenders too, because that cliff is a double, right? So he falls halfway down the cliff to this cliff ledge first, right? And that's where he meets the ape and has the secret kung fu manual. But then he falls many years later, I guess you're led to believe, he then falls off the rest of the way and has like subsequent adventures, and he meets like an old childhood friend who falls in love with him. So it's like all of the different combinations of things that happen with just one cliff. It's actually pretty spectacular.
Yeah. Quite a cliff.
Yeah.
What else?
Well, I went a different direction with not the protagonist, with antagonists. And I don't want to spoil this too much, but in Mistruth, there is a woman who falls off a cliff on purpose, like someone causes her to fall off a cliff. And that sets in motion her revenge plot. So I would say that that's definitely a contender as well, as far as like interesting things that happen. And I know we just reviewed this, but another contender I have is like, in Nirvana and Fire, our protagonist, Ling Su, like falls off a cliff. And I guess the adventure is he gets bitten by snow bugs, and that leads to the events that happen 12 years later that the entire drama is based off of.
So I guess like an interesting point to make is that usually our protagonists, if they are a main character, a protagonist or an antagonist, they will not die.
That's right.
But sometimes they die and come back to life. And a big example of that, which we haven't talked about, is The Untamed, right? So like it kicks off this whole series of events that unfold to like discover the mystery of like how Wei Wuxian came back to life. Yeah. So
Yes.
sometimes you do die, but then you undie.
That's true. That's true. But most of the time you do not die, even though people think you do. So, I mean, this is, and most of the time, and when we went down the list, like almost every single drama has a cliff falling scene. And it's almost not even worth mentioning for us to talk about all of the times that a guy is trying to save his woman. And like they fall down the cliff together and then they end up like making out because one of them takes care of the other one, etc. There's just too many of those.
Yep. All right. Do you have like a clear winner?
Um, you know, um I guess sex slavery from Handsome Siblings would have to like be like my top choice. And it's not just because of the sex slavery, but they find like he finds secret kung fu manual there too, right? So he got the double out of it.
And they never actually like have to perform any sex slave duties.
That's right.
I don't know if this is like because of censorship or what, but like
I don't know.
so
Yeah.
overall it's a win.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so one of the cliff falls that we have recently watched, where the person died and then undied, is what we're talking about today. We're reviewing a 2020 drama called Silent Criminal. It's a very short one, 13 episodes, only about 30 minutes each. And we watched this pretty quickly. I'll just run through the synopsis real quick, but I will let you know that we are going to spoil the crap out of this. And we are only committed to not giving spoilers when we really want you to watch something. So if you, spoiler alert, we didn't like it. But the quick synopsis is that there is an imperial guard, Jing Wei, called Long Yao, and an sort of unwitting genius constable, which remains to be like, it's debatable whether he's really a genius, Si Jing Yao, and they work together with this woman who is like the queen of a band of thieves, to solve a series of mysteries related to a powerful weapon. And everybody is like looking for this weapon, and their search uncovers some old conspiracies, secret identities, and more. So that is the quick and dirty synopsis. It's very short. So what did we like about this drama?
I mean, this drama, we liked just a few things. One, I'll say this, that this was a very sort of unexpected story. We have been like I think that over the last month we have started and dropped a lot of dramas because they were all the same story, and so this was a different story, and it was set up to be kind of a fun, quirky kind of like adventure, right? So there is this situation with this like this treasure hunt, and then they find out like the thing that they're hunting for, that is the treasure, is actually the key to an even bigger treasure, right? So like you have this quest set up, and then there's like these little micro mysteries, right? Because they're two detectives and they're supposed to be solving crime together. They don't want to work together at first, but then they eventually do. So like it has all of the elements of something that I would really like, and like none of the things that I don't like. And it obviously had all of the tropes, but I just thought that the way the story was conceived was really interesting. We'll talk about what we didn't like in the execution much. There's so many things, but like just in general, the setup was good.
Well, you talked about how, and I agree because I was interested in it, right?
Yeah.
And you talked about how we start and drop a lot of things, and at 13 episodes of 30 minutes each, like they really give us time to drop it.
Yeah, that's
it was
about as
it was
yeah.
real quick.
Yeah.
So I guess it's a plus and a minus that it was so short,
Mhm.
because I think that it was lacking in a lot of things because of its shortness, but it did allow us to finish it, for better or worse.
Well, okay, so this is the way I thought about the length, because like 13 episodes of 30 minutes each is maybe like 7 or 8 episodes, which is actually like more than I would watch of a lot of the dramas that I've dropped. I think I made it 4 episodes into like the Two Sisters one. Um, and that was even like because I was already fast forwarding through like whole bunches of it, and I was like, well, if it's like episode 4 and I'm already doing this, and I don't really want to watch more. But it's slightly longer than a movie, right? So you can get more
Yeah.
than a movie, but like less than like a real draggy drama. So like
Yeah.
kind of the sweet spot
If done well.
if done well. Yes.
I agree with you on like I was interested in the story, and I liked the twists and turns that it took. A lot of it is tropey, like, is the good person really a bad person? Is the bad person really a good person? Like, secret identities, blah blah blah. But I do think that when your drama is so short, it lacks character development, right? Like, and in fact, my biggest criticism of this drama are there are huge plot holes, right? Like,
Yes.
big enough holes for entire people to just drop into them and like never be heard from again,
Yeah.
right? So um just like a lot of stuff doesn't make sense, but it's over so quickly, you're like, wait, huh?
Yeah, I mean, and it's okay for there to be like fantastical elements. Like we watched a lot of dramas where it just like when we talked about Sleepless Princess, like the entire premise of that is made up, and but like
Ridiculous.
you have to be consistent with your sort of internal like universe. And it like one of the things that bothered me about the big plot holes. I guess we're moving on to why we didn't like this, but the characters don't always take actions that are logical according to what their personality is supposed to be. Like it's they have like their motivations for either being good or evil are either not explained or just very confusing, or like nobody cares enough to actually address it.
Or else they just like change their mind.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're
Yeah.
offering me some opinion or information to the contrary of what I believed. Okay, then
Whatever.
I'll switch teams now.
Yeah.
Um, and they're, yeah, like, I think that um, they spent the beginning of it being really working together. They bonded because there was this evil guy who they caught together. He goes to jail, and then they enlist him to serve the emperor. And you're like, and he does, and then you're 0% surprised when he
Mm-hmm.
double crosses,
Yeah.
but it's completely unclear what his motivation for trying to kill the emperor is, because in
Yeah.
the beginning he is protecting his own, like he's like greedy and corrupt, right? So he's like um amassed a bunch of wealth from like, taking advantage of the people, and they're trying to expose him, and like to such an extent that like his son murders somebody and they find somebody else and kill that person to like, but like then he like is moved by the cause of like country, and then turns to kill the emperor. Like, it doesn't, there's, the motive makes zero sense to me other than like, oh wait, he's a bad guy.
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense. And it also is like the main person that's the bad guy, like decides like launches a pretty long and sophisticated and like pretty resource
Years.
intense um revenge plot, right? And in the end he finds out that it's sort of like a misunderstanding that caused his like hatred, right? And you're like, why didn't you just ask and get clarification on that from the very get-go? Because you had access to that information. You were in the place of all of the people in the universe that could have verified that particular like incident. That would be you, because you were there. You could have just asked and then you would have known. And then like, fast forward like 20 years, you wouldn't have spent 20 years like doing all of the things that you did. It just doesn't make sense.
And
So
then his buddy is like
I don't understand his buddy.
locked up for 20 years and decides that he's going to come after him and like avenge the fact that he didn't come get him, like his buddy didn't come save him when
Yeah.
he was like, signed up for his cause.
Yeah.
And then they fight and he's like,
Okay, we're good.
you'll have an opportunity to do that later, and then the guy disappears.
Like none of that made any sense. So the other thing is that like I thought there was one plot device that was particularly lazy, and that's the how many times can you resurrect someone from the dead? The first time it's kind of interesting. The second time it happens to the same characters, you're like, oh my gosh. And then
Right.
it
You're
happens
like, oh shit,
multiple
the bad
times.
guys can be resurrected.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then like everyone starts coming back from the dead. And you're like, what is the point of any of this if all you can need to do is like shake your little bangle and like make them come back from the
Well,
dead?
I want to talk about the bangle shaking, but
Okay.
also
Yeah.
I want to point out that like when she resurrects her colleagues, she just like slits her wrist and like drips a little blood on them, and then they're resurrected. But when she resurrects dude who she likes,
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
has to like straddle him, pin him down, cut her lip, and like there was like this crazy like purple light like yeah.
Yes.
But
So
the Bengals,
yes.
because I want to talk about the women
Okay.
in this thing,
Okay.
and it's interesting because the women are very powerful,
Yes.
or they're set up. Their characters are set up to be powerful people, right? The one woman is the head of this whole like band of thieves and like running this village, and like she's the boss, and then she's not like, and then she just like throws it away,
Mhm.
and in a fit of very bad acting. But then the other woman, the woman who brings people back to life, she has this like bangle thing where she shakes it and it's like got like, you know, some sonic energy, whatever, and people are like, oh, and they can't like do anything anymore. They're totally debilitated. And she does it a couple times and then she doesn't anymore.
Yeah.
Like then she's just like running around trying to revive the man she loves.
Well, I mean, I think that they were trying to make her complex because she has this whole big thing where the two women are talking when she's in jail and she's like, I just want someone to love me, right? Like she just wants to be a woman. And like I can I mean, I feel
That's
like
what it means to be a woman.
I mean, I feel like they were trying to make it like she's a very powerful person and people see her as like being the powerful like leader of this like group, right? And like all she wants is to be seen as a normal person and to like have normal relationships. Like I feel like that's where they were trying to go with it. But they made her like they executed it in a way where all she wanted to do was make out with her guy, right? And it was just like
But I will say that that's common, right? Like this is
yeah.
a very common like TV, Hollywood, everywhere trope
Yeah.
where like, oh, this woman is like really successful in her career, but like I mean, it's 'tis the season, right? So like
Right.
every like Hallmark
Hallmark
Christmas
Christmas
movie, like
special. Yeah.
she's so like tired of her, and I will acknowledge that I enjoy these movies very much, but like, you know, successful businesswoman ends up in a small town and through the magic of Christmas realizes what's really important in life is finding a man.
Yes.
So yes, so it's sort of like their version of that is I guess not
Yeah.
executed that much worse than any other version of that story. So
Okay, that's fair. But they had it double, right? Because they had it, there's also that the woman that works for the general who was like in love with, she was like one general's daughter and then worked for the other general. And she's like super powerful kung fu lady. And then like she meets her like end like in the most stupid, ridiculous way ever.
mm-hmm.
And she knows that it's a trap, but she does it and then her like last words to her guy are like lie to me one more time about how insignificant our relationship is. Like why? It doesn't even
It's
make any
so like the women are
sense.
completely
Touching.
disposable in
Yeah,
this drama. Like they in fact all die.
they all die, all of the women except the mom does not die.
Yes, but everyone dies. Like this is the thing about this drama. Like um everyone except our two male leads die.
Yeah.
And I read some criticism about like with all of the popularity of BL stories and like queer baiting with this drama, but like I actually will not assign that kind of like malintent to this drama. I actually think it's like terrible acting.
Yeah,
Like
because there
they
was
look at
no
each other
chemistry.
plenty of times, but it's not
Yeah.
like Lanza and Wei Wuxian looking at each other, right? They
Yeah.
wink at each other, but like you're like, what does that mean? Do you like each other now? Do you not like what is like? I'm not convinced by any of their relationships.
No, I'm not convinced at all. I'm the only part I was convinced by was in the beginning where the one guy Long Yao was like really annoyed at the constable because the constable was being like a dumbass. And like I think that was well done. The part where they warm up to each other, like I was not convinced of. I mean, and they even have their like one like we're almost about to die scene where like the one guy was like, I've always seen you as a friend, and then and the other one is like, I've always seen you as my family. And
Is
like
that
there's
like one upping? Like,
yeah, I know, like what is that?
well, I did think that there was one moment
Okay.
where I thought there was going to be some development of this relationship
Okay.
where they were with yet another girl who dies, and talking about how like the constable was saying like, what does it matter if you're in a fancy place if you don't have somebody
Yep.
like to love you or whatever, and he's talking about family, and then like there was this like connection moment of like, because that guy didn't have family either, and that was like a potential place for them to, but they didn't really like,
Mm-mm.
he had a look, but they didn't look at each other, they didn't talk about it, like
Yeah. I
that was
yeah.
it, the
Yeah.
passing moment in the wind. um yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the only person that I thought had any kind of chemistry with another person was the sister that died. She was cute and she had like a fun adventure with her brother, and then she immediately died.
That's right, that's the girl I was thinking of. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So
immediately died.
okay, so I'll say one other thing that I didn't like about it, because of course we haven't talked about why we hate this one, is like neither of them are like really good detectives. They're both supposed to be crime solvers, and I don't think they're particularly good at it. The person in this drama that is the best crime solver is actually the official that his well, I can't remember his name, but the guy that dies. Well, he obviously dies too.
Yes.
What was his
Why
name?
did he have to die?
I don't know why he had to die, but he was
Like
actually,
everyone had to die except these two people so they could wink at each other at the end.
well, he actually does like two or three things to solve crime that were actually very smart. Um, and I was like, I like this guy. He's smart. And then they kill him like at the end. And you're like, why? Why did they do that? He was the only good detective. Um,
And like he's like a smart, capable government official that you'd think that the emperor would want
yeah.
by his side on an ongoing basis, not this like winky, allegedly genius constable man.
Maybe like, because they left it kind of open ended, like there might be a sequel. So maybe he gets brought back from the dead too. I don't know. I mean, like, do we know what the long-term physical repercussions of multiple like revivals are? Like, we don't know this.
Uh-uh.
I mean,
Um, and
yeah.
I didn't understand that, like, they sort of intimated at the fact that, like, she had a limited number of people that she could bring back, but then, like, why did she have to die? Like,
I mean, I really think that was a function of like maybe like they were trying to say she like gave like too many drops of blood or something like that, which is not true, because like you actually the human body has like quite a lot more than just a like, because she like revived her boss, and then the guy, right? And so then you're like, that's like three guys times like maybe 5 drops each, like you have more blood than that.
well, I think also, like, they spend all this time ridiculously setting up these love triangles with the women, and then they also have these two men winking at each other, and you're like, what are you trying to say? Like, it's just all very like, it's a hot mess.
It's because I think it's like just bad writing, and like you don't have a point of view on it. I mean, we talked about this when we talk. Well, I don't know if we recorded this, but whenever we talk about like the relationship between like Lanzan and Wei Wuxian, we always think about like, well, even like minus the like physical relationship between them, like it didn't have to be like an actual like couple relationship, but because they did the friendship so well. So like even if you didn't want to believe, or even if you didn't want like the two guys here to like be like a couple, could you at least convince me that they like each other as friends? And like I'm
To
not
be friends.
and I'm not convinced that either of them really liked the other women either. And I'm just like, minus the Bengal girl like wanting to make out with him, like I just like what, like it was, there's no chemistry. Like, and there's so many drama tropes that you can do to like pretend there's chemistry. Like do like a falling into the arms thing or something.
No spinning.
Oh, that's right. No spinning.
Spinning catch. Way to fall in love. And there was none. I think that yeah, it just like, I think a lot of this is because it was 13 episodes. Like it was too short to show any of this. And if you want to be plot driven, then clean up your plot holes.
Yeah.
And if you know, plot driven versus character driven, like
right.
the plot holes. So I'm gonna say that I would not recommend this drama, which I already said. Like
I
we
mean,
spoiled it for you anyway.
We don't care if you watch this or not.
Don't care if you watch this or not. If you want to be like, if you want to see what we're talking about, you can watch it. It won't take a lot of your time. I would not recommend it. I would not watch it again. I would not watch this.
So we watched it because there was nothing else that we wanted to watch, and we had already started and dropped like almost every single one that came out since like September. So the reason that we finished this, the reason we're reviewing this is because we actually finished it because it was short enough that it would have been like right around when we would have dropped it. So I guess what I would say is I would recommend this drama under a couple of circumstances. Number one, if we are experiencing another drought of drama and there really is nothing on and you just kind of want something like that's noise in the background, this will not annoy you as much as some of the other ones that are out there because there are no like annoying women tropes in it, right? Like there's no jealous,
they're all dead
because they're all dead. And it's short enough that it's like whatever. So that's like number one reason why I would recommend it. I mean, I would also recommend it like if you're just, yeah, I guess those are the reasons. Like if there's nothing else on and if you just want something that's noise in the background.
But now there's something else on.
There is something else now.
So we are very much looking forward to watching The Wolf, which has finally been released from censorship or whatever jail it's been in. Looking forward to some dated CGI from 2017. And the return of Sheldon.
Yes, this is really exciting. And I think we'll do a review of that in a couple of different parts. Like, because I think the key reason we're watching it is because we want to see our friend again. But my question is, and as of the time of this recording, neither of us have seen, or you watched 8 minutes of it.
I watched 8 minutes of it.
I watched the trailer and nothing else. And so the main question is, like, he doesn't appear for 10 episodes. Based on those 10 episodes, would we watch it if not for the fact that our friend was in the next
coming in the next episode? Yeah, I don't know. That's a good, because, you know, I tried to watch, I knew he was in Joy of Life, and I could not make it far enough.
Okay.
So,
well,
right. Stay tuned. We'll be talking more about The Wolf. Highly anticipated.
Yes. So subscribe to our channel and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.